He was like, weren't you like one of the founding people of our school? I mean, you were there like...
I wrote the charter, I guess, but there were so many people involved.
You were one of those people, though, and then when we added middle school, she came on. I think we came on around the same time. And I'm just so honored that she's just like willing to come and share some. And she was going to talk on the 4 temperaments, which in Waldorf, they, you know, the early years, they don't necessarily have their defined temperament, but you can kind of see, like, your little cholerics and your sanguines, and you'll hear more about that because she has a great way of telling us about all those fun things.
Oh. Well, I just want to say what fun it is to be here. And, yeah, actually, I was the first teacher back at Mariposa, too, and that's where Marie was. So it's been a long journey and a wonderful, wonderful one, and it's so fun to see all your faces and have you here. So anyway, tonight I get to talk about one of my most favorite topics, and it's what is called the temperaments. And why I love the temperaments is that I think I use them daily in my own life as a way to look at myself, my relationships with interactions with people. And as a teacher, I definitely use them daily. And as a parent, I hope that they're helpful to you. They are simply just another lens to see the world through. Just like the Enneagram would be a lens, or the Tarot, or whatever. And it's just one other lens. But it's a simple lens, because there are only 4 of them, unlike other lenses. And the temperaments actually started way back, almost 2,000 years ago, with the Greeks. And back then, their whole medicine and medical system was based on body fluids. And if you had too much black bile, then you were considered a melancholic, and too much yellow bile, a sanguine, too much blood, a choleric, and too much phlegm in your system, a phlegmatic. And this was all developed by Hippocrates, the inventor of modern medicine or whatever. And it went on for 1,200 years, and medicine was all about balancing these fluids. And then in the 19th century, when biology or medicine became more cellular, it was based on totally different things than body fluids, and it changed. But then at the turn of the century, Rudolf Steiner took up the idea of the temperaments again and brought them to, in his teacher education courses, to the teachers as a way to help, just one more tool to understand children. And what is really interesting to me is that just recently in a book of modern psychology, or a Psychology Today magazine, I saw this whole article about temperaments, you know, for adults. And I have a little handout for each of you. And on the first page is a quiz, so you can see what temperament you might be. So it's rather fun to sort of look at yourself. But I just wanted to give a few examples where it's been so helpful to me. I just got back from a trip last week to the Smokies in the Blue Ridge with a really good friend from Grass Valley named Dodie. And Dodie and I have really similar temperaments. And we stayed with a friend of hers in Asheville who was completely different. Now, Dodie and I would have the car all packed up with our tent and our camping gear and the food and just ready to take off. And we were just so excited to get out on our camping trip. And this friend of hers, Betsy, probably took at least 2 hours to get everything put together and gather all her food and just slowly and methodically put it all together. And then when we were traveling for 4 or 5 days, the 3 of us, it can get a bit tense in the same car, but just calm, never showed her feelings. Dodie and I get excited or nervous or whatever. Then we'd stop along the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we'd be out of the car and off to the overlook, looking over all those ridges that are so beautiful. And she'd sit there and lean against the car and just look at it. And it was just, it was more than just an energy level of being different energetically. We were just, the whole way we did things and looked at the world and expressed our feelings and expressed our thoughts was so different. And then just personally, I just often stop during the day and think, oh my goodness, am I too much of this, or am I acting too much of this way or that way? And the idea ultimately is to be able to balance all of them, and it's so wonderful. And in the classroom, it was ultimately so helpful. At lunchtime, there'd be one child out of her desk every day, looking around what everyone had to eat and visiting and socializing. And, you know, could never say, Bella, sit back down, because it was just who she was. She had to be that way. So it's just, there's such a helpful tool. So just one other quick thing I want to say about the temperaments, which comes from a Latin word, temperamentum, which means finding balance. And of course the Romans took everything from the Greek, so they ended up with this Latin name, is that they are not, they come, every child has their heredity stream. You've given your sons and daughters their physical body. All of that is coming from a heredity stream. But also coming towards them is their personality. And the temperament is born in between where these two meet. And they have nothing to do with environment or education. I mean, I'm fascinated with these twins. I mean, I would suspect that your twins have totally different temperaments. I don't know. But it doesn't have to do with education or upbringing or morality or values. It's really something that becomes unique to each child, and that's an important thing to understand. So what are these temperaments? I sort of made a little chart here, and maybe, can I just stick this here? So hopefully you can see. So there are 4 temperaments, and what I'd love to do is just go over them. And I'm wondering how many of you have heard these words, cleric, sanguine? So it's familiar, very familiar to you, or some of you. So I might start here with the sanguine child. Well, actually, before I begin, I thought I would tell you a story because we're in a Waldorf classroom. And this story is about 4 children who decided they would take a walk one day. And they decided they would follow a path into the woods. It was a beautiful autumn woods with crimsons and oranges and gold trees. And the first child who came down the path, oh, and I need to tell you, the end of this path, a huge tree has fallen over it, huge, and it's a real obstacle. So the first child comes, and this child, he's on his toes, and he can't at all follow the straight path. He's taking a diversion here and a diversion. Oh, there's a creek down here. He has to go see that creek. And over here, oh my gosh, there are trees and leaves to look at. Over there, there's a squirrel to go chase. And over here, there's a bird to look up at. Oh, getting down the path was very hard, and certainly not in a straight line at all. And finally got to this log. Something different. This is great. Something in my way. And maybe I can find 100 different ways to get over this thing. And eventually just sort of danced and leaped right over the log. The next child who came with sort of her head down, sliding her feet like there's a stone in her shoe. Just droopy as everything. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm always so tired. This path is so long and comes to that log. Oh my gosh, it always happens to me. Just me, only me. There is something in my way. What am I going to do? And crumbles and melts and leans up against that log and just cries. The next child who comes just comes rambling along steadily, just prodding along in a very straight, rhythmical, easy way. Oh, there's a log in the path. Oh, I guess I'll just have to sit down. Pull out my lunch. Have a little lunch. Maybe I'll have some more snack. A second snack. And eventually just curls up next to that nice, cool, soft moss on the log and has a nap. And the last one comes like a bullet down the path. Oh my gosh, she is just running with her feet dug in and her head forward, her nose pointed right in the direction of this, and there's that log. Challenge, up and over, and what will my next challenge be? So that's the story of the 4 children walking in the woods. And I'm wondering if you can tell me which child might have been the sanguine child. Do you have a sense of that?
The first one?
The first one, yeah. So the sanguine child is one that just loves, well, first of all, they're also just all connected with a different element. And the sanguine is connected with air and is up on their toes and sparkling eyes to the world and often a beautiful body physically, very balanced and just delighted in the world, happy. I can just think of Philip. It's so amazing when I think of these, when I'm thinking of temperaments, some children just come bung into my mind. And Caroline's son, just so sanguine. Just very social, has great friends, loves people, loves everything there is to look at. Will look at this and look at that. Maybe a sense of a butterfly, tasting a bit of nectar from this flower and that flower and this one, and loves beauty and loves tons of diversity in their life and newness and just cheerful and giving and social and very enthusiastic and very expressive. Now, every temperament has its wonderful qualities. So those are the wonderful qualities of a sanguine. But there's also always in every temperament something that has to be balanced. So these children, or people or whatever, live fairly superficially because they're all over, just delighting in everything there is to delight in. This is the description of this child, Bella, who at lunchtime had to visit everyone in the class and see what was going on at each one's desk. But they need to be drawn in. They need to be brought down. And they tend to be impatient, perhaps, or undisciplined, very distractible, impulsive, superficial, insecure a little bit at times. They could be. Sometimes a little fearful. They're just flying all over the place. So this is sanguine. And as adults, you're going to recognize there are pieces of these temperaments in all of us. And as adults, we have our ego, we have our own inner strength to recognize which temperament is playing out at the time and to be able to balance it in ourselves. But as parents, and teachers, the job is to do the balancing, help the children balance these things. So what can one do to help a sanguine? And what one wants to do is to form a relationship with them, really form a relationship because they love people. But they need to be brought down. I remember as a teacher going to a sanguine, could you add a little bit more to your picture of the barn? Just to bring them into it, to bring them into the depth a little bit more connected. Rhythm, really. They're just flying so much that a real rhythm and steady life really would help them as well. So they love newness. They love anything that's novel. So even bringing that to them is really helpful as well. I wrote down some notes about what to help them. Another great thing to do with a sanguine is to ask a personal favor. Could you please take this note to Miss Susan in the office, to really make a connection with them. So, and giving them all that variety and if they misbehave and they need a bit of admonishing, it's really just being really friendly with them. So moving from the air element of the sanguine, we'll move down to the melancholic, and the melancholic is connected to the earth. And the melancholic has the weight of the world on their shoulders. And they can have very long, thin bones, perhaps, sort of droopy eyes, long, droopy hair, sharp features. But there is no one more compassionate or caring or deep feeling, really knows compassion and sympathy than a melancholic. And there's no one who will take a thought and take it deeper and really think it through and take it to their heart and think out every detail there is to think about. The melancholic is just precious in that way, but the thing that needs to be balanced with the melancholic is that they can become so brooding and introspective. They can get stuck inside themselves. They just need to be able to come out. And they can be moody, they can be depressed. They often are real perfectionists. They can be critical and judging, pessimistic. But they are so faithful and so compassionate and so caring and just wonderful people. So what can we do to help a melancholic? One of the best things for helping a melancholic is not what you don't want to do. The reason these temperaments are so brilliant, you don't want to snap them out of it. You don't want to say, oh, come on, get out of your mood. The best thing with a melancholic is to tell them even a sadder story, even something worse that happens. Because what happens truly is they know that you see them. And just like all of us want to be seen, your children want to be seen. So by telling them something even sadder, they will go, oh, they see me, and they'll relax. Another thing with melancholics is they need a lot of alone time. So maybe even like a space in the kindergarten with scarves or one of those tents over a bed, someplace where they can be alone. They have to have a chance to be alone. Or giving them something to care about. You know, if you have a pet or taking care of an older person in the community or grandparent or whatever, something to put all that compassion towards is really helpful with a melancholic. To have them do drama or charades, something to get out of themselves because they get so stuck inside themselves. It's really, can be really difficult. Dancing or acting, helping them breathe. They tend to really need warm clothes, warm foods, anything to warm a melancholic. So, and then we have a phlegmatic, and the phlegmatics are just wonderful people. They're some of my most favorite people. They are steady and calm and even and loyal, and you can just know what you're going to expect of them. And they will sit in the back of the room and just watch. They'll watch everything that's going on, and they'll barely say anything. So I just can't help but think of William. Oh, yeah. And if they say anything, it will probably be really dry humor. And they will probably, some little spurt will come out. But they are just so steady and so loyal and even. And they like things very ordered. They like things that are very rhythmical. They're clear. They're efficient. They're just deliberate in their task and what they do. And they love comfort. And they love to eat. And they love to rest and just digest their food and digest the world, what's going around them. So their challenge actually is to wake up and not be lazy and get into action. And it's often really hard to wake up a phlegmatic. I mean, I remember once just going by a phlegmatic's desk and dropping a book right by this desk just to snap them out. Or, you know, they can just get so into their world. Or if you have a phlegmatic child, like a warm washcloth to wake them up in the morning. And they want time. Don't surprise them with, well, we're leaving right now. No, like in 10 minutes we're leaving. You know, just give them time to steadily move through what they're doing. And this woman that we visited in Asheville was so phlegmatic. She just needed her time to get the car packed. And she'd rather just observe the world than run down the trail. And, so they can be sulky, they can be sarcastic instead of showing this wonderful dry humor. They can be sort of unemotional and undecisive. but generally they are just such calm, steady people. And the best administrators I ever worked for were phlegmatics. They were just delightful. So it's connected to the water element, and you can just think of a calm, serene pond that's still with its reflection, and that's really the phlegmatic. So the cleric, what element do you imagine that's connected to?
Only one left.
Only one left. And just think of a flame that's just bursting up and coming right to a point and full of energy, and that's the cleric, just has a goal and is going to set his head and his nose, and they're stocky and they're putting their feet in and they're just going for it. And they, though, you also have to think of the coals of the fire. They have the warmest hearts. They are so caring. But they could be so focused on getting out of that door for recess that they knock down somebody, but they don't even know they knocked them down. I mean, they didn't mean to knock that child down. They're just so aimed at getting out. So they're just full of intention and energy. They're great initiators of play. They are great leaders. They're very warm. They're very compassionate. They get... Gosh, Carolyn, I'm so focused on your kids. Another child of Carolyn's was in a class that I took up Half Dome, and this child single-handedly got every fifth grader up Half Dome, climbing from Yosemite Valley to the bottom of Half Dome, and just said, do you need some more food? Can I take your pack? Here, have my sandwich. Do you need some water? And he got his whole class to the base of Half Dome. And he was just such a picture of we are going to get there. And because I had said to the class, either we all go or nobody goes. And his goal was, we are going to get there. And he just was so intentional with this complete warmth and, you know, desire to get everyone up. He was just, so it's such a picture of a cleric. Of course, what they need to balance is that this leadership can also become a bully. Instead of being a warm flame, they can be a bully, they can be arrogant, they can be sort of full of pride. They might use people to get what they want because they're so goal-oriented. They can be inconsiderate or impatient and intolerant, sort of aggressive. And what they need to be balanced is they need to be given a challenge, a big challenge, like one that no one has ever done. And it's really good to talk to them in a way that you bring them up, you rise them up. Like, I know you can do this. Nobody has carried this box of wood that's so big, but I know you can do it. And, you know, they'll just love that. So give them activity, give them challenges, give them things that make them feel good about themselves. They want to respect people, too. They really want an image, somebody in their life they can look up to. And stories of heroes are great, or heroines are great for them, because then they go, that's what I can live up to and be. So with every temperament, you want to understand who they are. And with a cleric, you don't, if they do something wrong, don't address it in that moment while they're hot. Let them cool, let the flames die a little bit. But they'll just so appreciate that you get who they are and understand them. And it's so helpful to me to understand that that's who that child is and what do they need that I can help them. And you might all take a minute and think, what temperament am I? And normally, you might be one and then sort of a side of two, or you may be two that are next to each other, but you rarely would be an opposite. And also as adults, our job is actually to be all four. And in different situations, for example, right now, perhaps I'm a little bit cleric because I'm trying to get this across to you, but normally I live in the sanguine world pretty much. And so in different situations and also in different relationships, and it's really helpful. I just want to say, if you can sort of picture who you are and you can picture who your partner is, it really can help bring understanding in terms of how to relate to each other. So I wanted to say that, and also I wanted to say in different parts of our lives we're a different temperament. What temperament do you think all your children are, just generally? Or not your child, but childhood in general would fall in which of these? Sanguine. Children are just sanguine. They're just up in the trees, in the sandbox, all over. And then later, 20, 30, it's like, I can change the world. I can take on the world. I can make a difference. I can create this organization. There's nothing I can't do. And what temperament would that be? Choleric, yeah. And then it comes to midlife change, 40, 50, 60s. Oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? How did I end up in this relationship? My life is almost over and I haven't done anything worthwhile. And that would be what? Melancholy. And then later in life, I'm just going to sit back in my rocking chair here. It's been a good life. It's really interesting to look back at all of it.
Let's have some chocolate.
Can I have some chocolate? Oh, I need to be a little more
Glass of
comfortable.
wine.
Oh, I might fall asleep. And that temperament just that wants to observe the past and observe the world and wants comfort in food is the phlegmatic. So I'm going to ask all of you to be really brave. And I'm going to ask the four of you to work together. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And Caroline and Doris and I are going to be around. And we'll take you, each take a group and help you. But I have these little charade cards. And I'd like you, and you're going to have to do it really quickly and spontaneously. But you're all going to have a situation. And you might think yourself, now which of these am I predominantly? You might want to act that out. But each situation, there are 4 people. And you'll have to decide amongst yourselves who will be the melancholic, the sanguine, the choleric, blah, 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 the phlegmatic. And we'll be here to help you with that. And then in this situation, the charade, you will need to be that temperament and act it out. Are you willing?
Sure.
So you